Dan Blocker, born Bobby Dan Davis, Blocker on December 10, 1928 in DeKalb, Texas, lived a life that reflected quiet strength long before he ever stepped into the spotlight. Raised in a modest, hard-working family, his early years were shaped by simple values: respect, honesty, and responsibility. His parents ran a small store, and from that environment, Dan learned the importance of community and treating people with kindness. Physically, he was impossible to ignore, standing tall with a powerful build. Yet those who knew him best often described him as gentle and deeply considerate. That contrast, his imposing presence paired with a soft-spoken nature, became one of the defining traits of his character. Even as a young man, he carried himself with humility, never seeking attention, but earning it naturally through the way he treated others. Discipline, education, and early purpose. Before acting ever entered his life, Dan was committed to building something meaningful through education and discipline. He attended military school and later pursued higher studies, excelling both academically and athletically. Football became one of his passions, not just for competition, but for the teamwork and structure it required. His time as an infantry sergeant during the Korean War further shaped his outlook, reinforcing values like leadership, patience, and empathy. These experiences didn't harden him. They deepened his understanding of people. After returning home, he chose a quieter path, working as a teacher. It was a role that suited him, allowing him to guide others while living a grounded life. Acting at that point was not a dream, but a distant possibility, something he would gradually step into rather than chase with urgency. Finding his way to the screen, Dan's entry into acting came slowly, almost organically. He began with small television roles in the late 1950s, learning the craft without losing sight of who he was. Then came the opportunity that would define his career, his casting as Hoss Cartwright in Bonanza in 1959. The role changed everything. Hoss wasn't just a character, he was a reflection of Dan himself, kind-hearted, loyal, and guided by a strong moral compass. Audiences connected with that authenticity immediately. Over 14 seasons and more than 400 episodes, Dan became one of the emotional anchors of the show. While others brought intensity or charm, he brought warmth. It wasn't about being the loudest or the toughest, it was about being real. And in a television landscape often driven by drama, that sincerity stood out in a powerful way. The heart of the cast. Behind the scenes, Dan was more than just a co-star. He was a stabilizing presence. His colleagues respected him not only for his professionalism, but for his integrity. He approached his work with a sense of responsibility, understanding that the show meant something to its audience. For him, Bonanza wasn't just entertainment. It was storytelling that carried values into people's homes. His relationships with fellow actors, including Michael Landon and Lorne Greene, were built on mutual respect and trust. Dan didn't seek conflict or attention. He simply did his part, consistently and sincerely. That reliability made him the kind of person others leaned on, both professionally and personally. In many ways, he became the quiet center of the show, holding things together without ever demanding recognition for it. A love that grounded him. Away from the cameras, Dan's life was anchored by his marriage to Dolphia Parker. They married in 1952, long before fame entered the picture, and their relationship remained steady through the years that followed. It wasn't a glamorous Hollywood romance. It was something deeper, built on shared values and mutual support. While Dan worked long hours on set, Dolphia created a stable home for their 4 children, ensuring that their family life remained grounded. Together, they raised their children with the same principles that had shaped Dan's own upbringing. Fame never became the center of their lives. It was simply a part of it. What mattered most was the sense of normalcy they preserved, even as Dan's public profile grew. That balance allowed him to stay true to himself, never losing sight of what really mattered. Differences that tested patience. Not every relationship on set was as smooth. Dan's dynamic with co-star Pernell Roberts revealed a different side of his character. Their disagreements weren't rooted in personal dislike, but in contrasting perspectives. Roberts was known for being outspoken and critical, often challenging the direction of the show. Dan, on the other hand, valued teamwork and respect. He believed that even if you disagreed, there was a way to express it without disrupting the collective effort. This difference created tension, one that lingered throughout their time working together. For Dan, the frustration came from a sense that the work, and the people behind it, deserved appreciation. When Roberts eventually left the show, the tension eased, though the experience left an impression. Dan didn't carry bitterness, but he never fully aligned with that approach to collaboration either. A man defined by integrity. What set Dan apart wasn't just his talent, but the consistency of his character. Whether on screen or off, he carried the same values: respect, humility, and a belief in doing things the right way. He understood that you didn't have to agree with everyone, but you did have to treat them with decency. That philosophy guided his interactions, shaping the way he approached both work and life. It's easy to admire someone for their achievements, but Dan's legacy goes deeper than that. It lies in how he made people feel, in the trust he built, the kindness he showed, and the quiet strength he embodied. Those qualities aren't always visible in headlines, but they are the ones that endure. A sudden and lasting loss. On May 13, 1972, Dan Blocker's life came to an unexpected end at just 43 years old due to complications following surgery. The news was a shock, not only to his family but to his colleagues and the millions who had welcomed him into their homes each week. His absence was deeply felt on Bonanza, where his presence had been so integral. For his co-stars, the loss was personal. A friend, not just a fellow actor, was gone. For audiences, it was the loss of someone who had come to represent warmth and goodness. His passing left a silence that could not be filled, a reminder of how much he had meant to those around him. A legacy of quiet greatness. Today, Dan Blocker is remembered not for controversy or spectacle, but for something far more meaningful: his humanity. He showed that strength doesn't have to be loud, that kindness can be powerful, and that integrity is something you carry with you in every part of life. His portrayal of Hoss Cartwright continues to resonate because it was rooted in truth. And beyond the screen, his life serves as a reminder that character is built in the everyday choices we make. Dan didn't try to be extraordinary. He simply lived with honesty and respect. In doing so, he left behind a legacy that feels just as real and relevant today as it did decades ago.